Few books occupy the space that man's search for meaning does. Cited as one of the most important books ever written, not because it is comforting, but because it is clarifying. Welcome to Book Bites Guru. Our mission is to teach you to understand and implement investing to build wealth and financial freedom. A huge thank you to everyone supporting us so far. Many of you watch without subscribing. Please like, follow, and subscribe so we can continue providing this content. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist. His wisdom wasn't just theoretical, it was forged in the fires of Auschwitz, where he lost his family and pregnant wife. He asked a deceptively simple question: how does a human being find meaning in life, even under the most brutal and dehumanizing conditions imaginable? Frankl insists on something unsettling, that suffering is inescapable, but meaning is not. He refuses to claim suffering is good, only that it can be transcended. The book has two parts. First, a narrative of life in the camps. Second, an explanation of logotherapy. Together, they argue that meaning is our primary drive. In this six-part series, we will dissect Frankl's lessons in depth, from the shock of arrival to the discovery of meaning in the deepest pain. Now, let's begin with the first phase, life inside the camps. We enter now the dark heart of the experience. Frankl organizes life in the camps not by days or years, but by the decay of the human mind. The first stage is shock. It begins with the admission. In a single moment, everything you own, everything you are, is taken. Your clothes, your hair, your name. You are no longer a doctor, a father, or a son. You are a number. 119,104. Your past life is not just gone, it is erased as if it never existed. Under this crushing weight, the mind breaks, or it creates a shield. Frankl calls this the delusion of reprieve, the desperate belief that you will be saved. Prisoners would interpret the smallest things, a guard not hitting them, a slightly thicker soup, as signs that they were exempt from the fate of the others. But reality in Auschwitz is relentless. The delusion fades, and when it does, it is replaced by the second, more permanent stage, apathy. Imagine the gray dawn. You are woken by a whistle. It is freezing. You have no shoes. Your body is swollen from edema. Every step is pain. Frankl once heard a prisoner groaning in his sleep, having a nightmare. He wanted to wake him. Then he stopped. No dream could be as bad as the reality of the camp. This is why apathy is necessary. It is a psychological anesthesia. You simply stop feeling. You cannot afford to feel the cold, or the hunger, or the pity. Frankl describes men stepping over the bodies of the dead as they would step over a log, not out of cruelty, but out of an exhaustion so deep it consumes the soul. Yet, paradoxically, as the outer world became a hell, the inner life became more intense. Prisoners would stare at a sunset and whisper, how beautiful the world could be. And humor. Humor was another weapon of the soul. We tried to make jokes about the soup, about the future. It was a trick to distance ourselves from the horror. Frankl calls this provisional existence. We could not aim for a future because we could not see one. A day felt like a week, yet a week passed like a dream. This uncertainty is corrosive. Death often began inwardly. The moment a prisoner ceased to see a future, they were already dead. There was a sign. When a prisoner smoked his own cigarettes instead of trading them for food, you knew. He had given up. He would be dead within days. And finally, the third stage, depersonalization. When the gates opened, we did not go mad with joy. We had forgotten how to feel. We had to relearn how to be human. This is the challenge. To find meaning not just in survival, but in the suffering itself. That is the choice that remains. We have walked through the valley of the shadow. We have seen the shock, the apathy, the death of the soul. But Frankl insists, that is not the whole story. In the mud and the cold, he saw something else. He saw men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Even when the body is enslaved, the mind remains free. Every day, every hour, offered the opportunity to make a decision. a decision which determined whether you would or would not submit to those powers which threatened to rob you of your very self. The way a prisoner bore his suffering was a genuine inner achievement. It is this spiritual freedom, which cannot be taken away, that makes life meaningful and purposeful. Frankl argues that suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. The question is, are you worthy of your sufferings? Consider this scene. Frankl is marching to work. The cold is biting. The guards are shouting. His body is screaming in pain. But his mind escapes. He thinks of his wife. He sees her smile. He hears her answer. He realizes that for the first time in his life, he understands the truth that poets have written about. The truth is that love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. The salvation of man is through love and in love. He did not know if she was alive. It didn't matter. Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in her spiritual being, her inner self. I saw her image. I heard her speak. Her smile was brighter than the sun. In that moment, the suffering vanished. I was with her, and she was with me. And then, a sign. As he spoke to her in his mind, a bird flew down and perched in front of him. It looked at him steadily. It was as if life itself was saying yes. This is radical. Frankl is saying that meaning does not require happiness. Meaning does not require success. Meaning can exist even when life is reduced to absolute pain. He calls this tragic optimism. It means remaining optimistic in spite of the tragic triad: pain, guilt, and death. It means saying yes to life in spite of everything. He quotes Nietzsche: "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." Those who lost that why, the love, the unfinished work, the hope, they died. Life is not primarily about what we expect from it, but what it expects from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life and instead think of ourselves as those being questioned by life. Our answer must not consist in talk and meditation, but in right action and in right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems. For Frankl, it was his manuscript. For others, it was a child waiting for them. The uniqueness and singleness which distinguishes each individual creates a meaning that only he can fulfill. When liberation finally came, the way back was not easy. The soul had to stretch again. But eventually, the prisoner knelt in the field and knew. I called to the Lord, and he answered me. So, in the end, what is left? Not power, not pleasure, but the freedom to choose how we bear our burden. This experience in the camps laid the foundation for Frankl's theory, logotherapy, the healing through meaning. In the next part, we will explore this theory. How do we apply this, to meaning in our modern lives, far from the barbed wire? We leave the camps now, but we carry the lesson with us. Frankl took this experience and forged a new school of psychotherapy, logotherapy. Logos is Greek for meaning. Logotherapy focuses on the future. It focuses on the meaning of human existence, as well as on man's search for such a meaning. Freud said we are driven by the will to pleasure. Adler said it was the will to power. Frankl disagrees. He argues our primary drive is the will to meaning. This is not a spiritual rationalization of our drives. It is the drive itself. We are not just seeking to satisfy needs. We are seeking a reason to be. But isn't peace of mind the goal? No. Frankl introduces new dynamics. Mental health is based on a certain degree of tension, the gap between what one is and what one should become. What man needs is not a tensionless state, homeostasis, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. But what happens when this will is frustrated? Frankl identified a modern pathology, the existential vacuum, a feeling of total and ultimate meaninglessness. He called it the Sunday neurosis. That depression which afflicts people who become aware of the lack of content in their lives when the rush of the busy week is over. We try to fill this vacuum with money, with power, with pleasure, with busy work. But the vacuum remains. You cannot buy meaning. You cannot force it. This leads to a collective neurosis. We conform to the herd, or we do what we are told. We lose our individual responsibility. This is a crucial distinction. Meaning is not something we invent or create inside ourselves. It is something we detect. We discover it in the world. But what is the meaning of life? Frankl answers, what is the best move in chess? There is no general answer. It depends on the situation and the opponent. One should not search for an abstract meaning of life. Everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life. Therein he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Frankl identifies three main avenues by which one arrives at meaning. The first is by creating a work or doing a deed. This is the most obvious path. The artist with his painting, the parent raising a child, the entrepreneur building a business. It is what we give to the world. The second is by experiencing something or someone, truth, beauty, nature, culture, or by experiencing another human being in his very uniqueness, by loving him. The third is the most difficult. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This is the attitudinal value. But remember, suffering is not necessary for meaning. To suffer unnecessarily is masochistic. If the suffering is avoidable, remove the cause. Now, a warning. The more you aim at happiness, the more you miss it. Frankl calls this hyperintention. Happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. Like the eye sees the world, but it does not see itself. If the eye sees itself, if you see a cataract, it is because the eye is diseased. A healthy mind focuses outward. Freedom is only half the truth. Freedom is the negative aspect of the whole phenomenon whose positive aspect is responsibleness. Freedom is in danger of degenerating into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in terms of responsibleness. That is why I recommend that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. The cure is not pills or power. The cure is to find your specific mission, to listen to what life is asking of you right now. We began our journey on the tracks to Auschwitz. We witnessed the stripping of humanity, the loss of names, the reduction to numbers. We felt the shock of admission. We understood the deadly necessity of apathy, the emotional armor worn to survive the daily horror. But in that darkness, a spark remained. We saw that even when everything is taken, one freedom cannot be stolen, the freedom to choose one's attitude. We learned that salvation is through love and in love, that the image of the beloved can sustain a man even when his body is broken. We discovered tragic optimism, the ability to say yes to life in spite of pain, guilt, and death, to turn suffering into a human achievement. And from this experience, a theory was born, logotherapy, the truth that our primary drive is not pleasure, not power, but the will to meaning. We recognize the existential vacuum in our own modern lives, the boredom, the emptiness that money and success cannot fill. We learned the three paths to fill it, by creating a work, by loving a person, or by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. We understood that the meaning of life is not abstract. Like a chess move, it is specific to you, to your situation, to this very moment. And we learned the paradox of happiness, that it cannot be pursued, it must ensue. It is the byproduct of a life lived with meaning. Freedom demands responsibility. Life is asking you a question. You answer not with words, but with your life. So here's the challenge. Stop asking what the world owes you. Start asking what you owe the world. What is your task? Who is waiting for you? Your life has a unique meaning that only you can fulfill. Don't let the vacuum consume you. Fill it with your deeds. This series is only a glimpse. Man's Search for Meaning is a book that changes lives. We urge you read it. Let it change yours. At Book Bites Guru, we believe true wealth includes the wealth of the spirit. We help you build financial freedom so you can pursue your meaning. If this journey has moved you, please subscribe, like, and share. Help us spread these ideas. Join our community of meaning seekers. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Go find your why. Thank you for watching.